Ah! Bonjour! On est là! On est bien. We are here, my friends! Ah! Bienvenue à la perspective académique. On est là. On est là à la Louvre. We're here at the Louvre, and we've got some art for you today. We're going to go over with our friends Joshi and Mad Magical. Bring our friends over here. Okay. Oui. Bienvenue, mes amis. Mes amis. I am going to welcome you.
Is he speaking
into
French?
What?
Are you speaking
the
French, Sir
heart
Magical?
of France, my friends. And we're going to look at some art, okay? These are some wonderful local artists, and they've done a wonderful job, okay? So we're going to start. I'm going to bring up the picture, and it's going to be very zoomed in. I'm going to get your guys' thoughts on what it could be, my friends, and how elevated in culture it will be.
Oh, monsieur.
And then we dissect the art, okay?
Monsieur, I
Got
think this
We-
is the best thing that we could possibly be doing, right? Our players are so beautiful every time.
If I laugh too hard, the mustache comes off. It's fine.
Monsieur, are you okay? Is it
Okay, we
detachable?
go to the. On y va, on y va. Ah la vache. We start, okay?
We start.
We start. what do you think this could be, my friends?
Is that a piranha
An
plant?
alligator.
Oh no, it's even better. Okay.
A dragon. Is it a dragon?
No, close one. Okay. This
Oh,
was
a
from
lizard.
artist locally known as Busio. Okay.
Okay.
It is beautiful. Okay. Look at this.
Or is Lego?
It is-
Is Le
Tom
Tonkin?
Kent!
This is
Oh.
le catfish.
Oh, magnifique. Magnifique,
Mwah,
monsieur.
mwah.
Absolutely
To-
beautiful.
You
10 out
see
of
the
10.
hat? It really just puts it all together. It gives it that distinguished feel.
You can
Oh,
tell
it's-
it is art because Tom Kinch is otherwise nude. You can see his full form. He looks absolutely gorgeous, and I feel like it is
What
such
do you
a...
mean he's got a little coat on?
But not in his picture.
No, this is the full embodiment. The full embodiment.
Gotta
of,
look a
of
little
Tom
closer to
Kent.
see.
Thank you, artist Busio.
All natural.
Oh, he is an up and comer, isn't he? Oh, it's so good. All right,
That was good.
second
That was good.
picture.
What? Wait, how is he formally known as Arrow, but now still known
He
as
was known
Arrow?
as Arrow before, but he also happens to have the
But
same
that
name.
means he's not formally. He's still. It's a chicken. It's a chicken. It's a chicken. It's a chicken.
I was gonna say
Chicken.
a duck.
Chicken? It's a chicken. Wait. Wait, wait.
Well,
Wait. Wait. What is it?
oh.
No, that's a duck.
Leroy.
That's a duck.
Like France.
Oh.
We love it. Leroy.
I thought
Codemont.
that France doesn't like monarchs.
We go quickly to the second one. Okay, this one is
Huh?
quick. This one is brutal, and this one is Arrow.
Is it Le Goddess of Death? Is it like Kindred?
No, mon
Melissa?
ami, quoi? What are you doing? It is Blood Moon Callista. Come on, it's so easy.
I was right. I said Callista. Hey!
Obviously, you are not cultured like the French.
I-
Okay, okay.
I apologize. I am merely a
we
fraud.
move on.
Okay.
I got it.
We-
I didn't get Blood Moon, but I got Callista.
We move on, okay? You guys are struggling,
All right,
as they
all
say in America.
What do you mean? I got
Okay.
Callista.
This one is by one of the another up and comer. Okay, his name is Seth T. Okay, and already
That's
off the bat,
Garfield.
it is wondrous. You wonder about the abstract, the art. What is the interpretation?
That's Garfield. I don't like Mondays. That's
it's-
Garfield. It's Garfield.
Look, I have to say, I think
No.
it's some kind of Cheeto.
Et c'est pas un Cheeto, c'est la goddess de la soleil.
Oh!
Et c'est le Leona, mes amis. Look at the art here. There are multiple layers. There are multiple colors. It's a sorti. He is truly magnifique.
Magnifique.
From the shoulders down, very good. But that face is Garfield.
How are you going to call out Sartika like that? Come on, he is an artist. You don't. Go,
I said
you
that he
don't
did
go
good
to
from the
an
shoulders
art
down, but the
museum
face is
and
Garfield.
You just call out the artist, do you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look,
Well, that's
Look,
not
I'm
how
American.
we do in France, because we are cultured, okay? Obviously, there are some problems over there. But here in France, we do not do that, okay?
Okay.
So, we're going to kick you out, all right? I'm done. We're going to put this art away. The art for the Perspective Academique is too good for you. So, goodbye, my friends, les shoutcasters. C'est quoi?
hey, Magical.
All right, I see how it is. I see how
What
it
do you
is.
think
Just
the
getting
French
kicked
word
out
is
of
for
places.
Butterface? Because you said everything Butterface looked good, right?
Oh, I don't speak
Yeah,
French.
well, we'll have to ask Messier when he comes back for Le Next Perspective Academique. Honestly,
Yeah.
just really impressed with the incredible art that all of our players go. I didn't know
I did
that we
too.
had master artists on top of master players. They're not even
The
master.
Tom Kench was fantastic.
true.
I love that for Crucio.
I still maintain he
and
was
I
not wearing any
appreciate-
clothes other than the top hat.
No, I was assuming that was just his face. That's all I was
Well, I
assuming.
mean,
I wasn't
When his mouth is like this big, does it still count as only his face? Like, where does the rest of his body start?
So do you know how to catch it? What they call fishing for catfish? At least there's like a
Noodling.
technique. Yeah, I'm glad you know.
Noodle, noodle.
Because do you know what noodling is?
Yeah, you stick your entire freaking hand like in a hole and they
Yep.
bite it.
Yeah.
and-
No, no. That's not it.
Okay.
You put your hand in the hole and then you stick your hand up like this and you wiggle your fingers around like they're worms to try to get them to bite as though it's worms.
Yeah.
And then they'll
Now
chomp down on it and then you pull them
it's
up.
important to my understanding of noodling is that catfish don't really have teeth, right? Like
No, but they have really like hardened gums, so they're not necessarily the nicest things. But hi, Vassell, welcome back to
Why are
our
we talking
Discovery
about
Channel.
catfish, guys? What?
I don't know.
What's
I had a
going
bad
on?
Tinder experience. It's
Do I
okay.
have to? Interesting. Well,
That's why we
maybe-
need you. That's why we need you back. Get us back on track.
Yeah, I don't know what. I had my headset on. I didn't know. I heard some crazy. You guys got kicked out of the Louvre? How do
I
you
did.
do that remotely? Anyways,
Look,
I don't know either.
It turns out bad French accents are not appreciated by the local culture.
Also, criticizing
Somebody
the
should
art is
really
not
tell
like.
that guy that looks like Bob's Burgers that then. So, anyways, we're gonna talk about this series really quick because this has been a very fun day already. But you still see the reason why both these teams are lauded so well, and I personally really like the fact that we got CTL pull up some adaptation in those macro plays in the later game.
I also feel like we're not seeing CLG try as many things this time around, which is uncharacteristic. Once again, we were constantly praising Rostarn's ability to find advantages in the first couple of minutes by having inventive pathing and using the fact that his opponents know and don't know certain things in order to come at them from unexpected angles. But this time, just going for a full clear ended up giving Armeo a lot of time to build an understanding of where Zenja is. Like, well, he hasn't ganked yet, so he must be going on a fairly normal kind of route. And that means that I know where I can be to prevent Rostarn from finding advantages. And to Armeo's credit, it worked wonderfully. The one time Rostarn tried to go for a gank in the mid lane, it ends up being a situation where he goes down.
Well, and also props to a lot of the lanes from Team Liquid. Bradley did struggle a bit against Sokla in the lane phase, but once he was able to join with the team, he looked much better. But then the bot lane, the fact that Yon and Rhino, Zeri and Tom Kench, we knew that they were going to be. We knew it was going to be fine later into the game, but the fact that they were able to get a lot of shoves back and make sure that Breezy, especially Breezy, didn't leave that lane throughout the entire game except for like one play, but Rhino matched that as well, was really good from Team Liquid to make sure they denied those early game plays for CLG.
And that's what we kind of talked about going into the game, right? Like, if Armeo can get under the skin of Rose Thorn? How do we see that unique pathing play out? And I think the facilitation that Armeo was able to provide still stands out to me so heavily. And on the other side for CLG now, like, you've got to find that bounce back. You've got to find where, go back to the bread and butter, go back to that early game snowball and try to get the game in your possession itself. But I do hear we are ready for champ select for the second game. So CLG, ball's in your court. And guys, it is also in yours. Take it away.
I let it.
Thank you, Marcel. It's good having you back. We'll see you after this game, especially for some interviews. But we got to get ready for our second game. We got to see how CLG are going to be able to bounce back in the second part of the series, as well how Team Liquid can make sure they get a 2-0 over the top team in Academy.
And I want to put a little bit of, a little bit of forgiveness potentially for CLG, right? It is really, really difficult to have a rough game like that one where you kind of lost based on some passivity to turn around and just say, hey, we're going to be Giga Chads this game. We're going to run over everything. We're going to make all the big plays. And that's tough. That's really, really tough. So CLG, if they are able to do that and immediately flip that switch, is going to be really impressive to me. But as we start looking at the picks and bans this time around, notice the Zeri is banned once again, but the Caitlyn is left up for Team Liquid. And it's not something that Jan has put nearly as much time into, but the question now remains, if they're not going to be picking that, are they going to be going over towards the Jinx, which has been the perennial first pick for this season so far?
I'm really curious to see how that is going to be.
What?
Ryze was the other thing that had been banned by Team Liquid when they were on the red side. They banned that as well as Jarvan. They grabbed that immediately for Harry, and the answer is this Jinx that we saw skipped over last time, and the Tahm Kench to make sure to deny that from Rhino.
I'm very shocked by this pick coming out for presumably Harry in the mid lane, right? And I also shout out to Rudude because I saw him play in the bottom lane not that long ago. But the Jinx Tahm Kench coming through, I really like, because we just saw how powerful this Tahm Kench can really be. And Jinx can be fairly self-sufficient in a lot of bot lanes, but Team Liquid, I'm just surprised that they're not picking which of the 80 carries they want, right? The Jinx coming through with the Caitlyn still up. The fact that Team Liquid are not going for it says that either they don't think it's nearly as good as a lot of other teams do, or Jan isn't currently willing to play it, right? Because Caitlyn has to be played alongside a very select few number of supports, which we haven't necessarily seen Rhino have a whole lot of success with thus far.
Yeah, but I want to see what they pair up in that bot lane for Rhino with this Varus already locked in. Because you're not getting the Tahm Kench, we're not seeing that Caitlyn Lux, as you talked about. The Soraka getting locked in. I mean, I'm expecting that for Rhino, but we have also seen that these enchanters and solo lanes has been a thing. So Bradley or Harry can easily pilot that champion with the Ryze going for Bradley or Harry as well.
Yeah, I was not expecting 12-4 to be a particularly large patch, Magical. I was not expecting to see this much transitioning from all of these players in terms of what champions they're playing. And Twisted Fate is back as well. Okay, Ryze Twisted Fate is a very traditional matchup. Both these champions have one crucial thing for their junglers, and that is undodgeable lockdown. You go in and it's an easy route for Harry, it's an easy stun for Triple, and that just means that if your jungle is there, it is very difficult for the opposing mid laner to get away. It's basically a guaranteed flash trade the first time you do it, and the second time you do it, you just run them down because they have nothing left. So, looking at this right now, both compositions have picked presumably their mid lane and their bottom lane, though of course Soraka and Tahm Kench can move around, and now we need to see what junglers they're going to pick to try and punish the fact that their opposing mid laner doesn't have a lot of mobility.
No, this is interesting to see. And I'm still looking at Team Liquid. We highlighted at the very beginning in the pre-show that Team Liquid, one of the advantages they can have over CLG is the fact that Bradley is someone who is swapped from mid to top lane, can play a lot of champions that are unique to that lane, and have given them that surprise element that a lot of teams haven't necessarily fully been ready for. And here, where we see Team Liquid, Team Liquid having the Ryze, having this Soraka, there are these options where they can catch CLG off guard, despite the fact that in the second part of the bans, we're seeing a lot of jungle focus.
Well, I mean, you have to, right? You have to identify what your opposing jungler wants to play. I'm kind of expecting a Rek'Sai or a Xin Zhao ban here. I feel like the Xin Zhao is less threatening than the Rek'Sai is, considering what we just talked about with the gold card coming through from Triple, and it's something that Rosemary has played quite a bit, but the Akshan ban instead coming through, targeted at Dokla. Actually, very surprising to me. I Has he played it so far this split?
He has played it.
Okay, he has. Okay.
And so it's not necessarily out of his wheelhouse either, but it's surprising to see banned here, and I'm wondering
what does that allow you to play?
Means for. Right, that's what I'm looking at for Team Liquid. What does that open up? Because Viego getting locked in for Rose Thorn this time, not going for the Xin Zhao, but that Follow Bear that had been banned last game is still open. There are these options. Hecarim we've been seeing come back into the meta, especially against Udi here. We look towards Malice and his champion pool, and these strange picks that he's been able to bust out. Armeo, he's one of these players who likes to play a lot more of these champions that can facilitate the rest of his team, even if in the last game he played Viego and did a great job. The Volibear is something that he can use to help out everyone with a lot of gank assistance.
True. And also creates a bit of a front line, but the primary engage is currently lying in Jan's hands, right? He had a rough showing last time we saw his Varus going up against Diamond's Blitzcrank, where it felt like he was the magnet to the hands. But this time around, there's not the same kind of easy aggression coming through. And this is surprising to me, right? Akshan going into Sion is decent, but it's not like an overbearing matchup for the Sion at all. It's something that you can definitely navigate relatively successfully. And this time, as we start looking at the other side of the map, Dokla with the Sion already there has a lot of picks that he can go for, and things that are normally considered really difficult in solo queue, like the Jace, suddenly become very playable when you actually start looking at competitive fives, just because you know you're going to have a little bit more coordination to keep track of where the enemy jungler is. What are you looking at?
Oh, Vayne gets locked in, and I was looking at what if we see something really cheesy from Team Liquid?
Yeah.
What if instead of sending Sion into the top lane, we see Ryze and the Sion goes mid lane? That's what I was kind of looking at and wondering. With this Vayne pick too, that's a really rough lane for Sion. Like the Akshan you can manage, but Vayne is something that can play very aggressively and dodge away from a lot that you would try to do with your lockdown tools.
Yeah. So this is a situation where CLG don't have any true frontline, and that can be a bit of an issue for them because it does allow Jan to go more towards lethality builds and have a lot of success with them because he has more range than the other team. It also means that that Frozen Heart is looking mighty fine right now, Magical, because you reduce the attack speed, you reduce the amount of damage you take from auto attacks, and across the board, you don't really have to worry about magic damage with this composition, right? Triple on the Twisted Fate doesn't do a whole lot of damage anymore, right? With a lot of damage ripped out of your Q and less damage coming through from the attack speed on your E, just means that it is very, very difficult for CLG to create credible threats against the front line of Team Liquid, except for Vayne.
Right. I was the Vayne, Dokla in the last game on Gwen was able to do a lot of work in that lane, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. It wasn't able to overcome the insurmountable odds that had placed against them with Team Liquid getting advantages everywhere else on the map. They're going into game 2 with this Vayne for Dokla into Bradley on something like Sion. Not necessarily what we're used to seeing from Bradley in this top lane, but still an angle. It's an angle for Dokla to try to get a little bit of control and see if he can get early leads against something that is going to be low range.
Well, as we load onto the Rift, we are seeing some interesting choices coming through for Dokla, right? He does have the cleanse available, and this is a game where we were putting a lot of pressure on Dokla in our first game as one of the people who can be really strong throughout the entire season, who has been putting a lot of pressure on enemy top laners, building big advantage for himself. And just like we saw with Harry last game, right, where Harry built his early advantage and then popped off with it afterwards, now I'm kind of looking at Dokla to do the same thing because he has a really good early lane. It is incredibly difficult for Bradley to do anything for the first couple of levels because he is big and unwieldy, and fighting Vayne is like boxing with shadows. You can't hit her. You can't get on top of her. Your only real way of interacting with a W, if Dokla plays it right, you aren't going to be getting that damage off either.
And look at how aggressive Dokla is already playing. Making sure that he can essentially watch Bradley walk back into the jungle, even so showing that Armeo is starting on this blue buff, with Rosethorn also being on this top half. He is just being incredibly rude. He is not letting this blue buff be an easy time for Armeo.
Lethal tempo.
Look at the damage he is doing. He is just trying to harass him. The smite will come out of Armeo. That was a lot of damage Dokla placed down, also forcing Bradley to hang out in this jungle in case there was the full-on fight Dokla unleashed onto Volibear.
But he missed experience for it. I'm still trying to figure out like how strong this is. Like obviously he's bullying really heavily because he knows there's no way to interact with him. But oh,
and speaking of not being able to interact right now, Jan already having to use the cleanse. The ignite came out of Freezy. Both sides of this bot lane trying to get that early level 2 advantage.
both sides are here to fight, Magical. Like the crazy pressure that is already coming out from CLG is really turning it on its head, right? I was saying I would be impressed if they were going to be able to instantly flip the switch like that from game 1 to game 2. And so far, looks like they are succeeding. But there you go. Boxing with shadows. How do you hit Vayne ever? The answer is you usually don't, because you need to have access to ultimate. You need somebody else to get the tumble out, because you can just wait with Vayne's tumble in order to actually go for any damage. Once you see the Q, once you know it's down, you're on a slightly lower cooldown, and so you can be really, really aggressive in this lane. And I love the fact that Tukla is using it not to just blindly push it in underneath the enemy turret. Instead, he's building up a wave so he can crash it all at once, get it back in, and have a small item advantage.
And here, I kind of want to go into how Team Liquid possibly can deal with this Vayne, because as you said, it's going to be difficult. It's the shadow boxing. How do you get on top of Vayne? What do you really do in order to stop this? And we look what they have in other parts of the map. What do they really have to permanently or even reliably lock down this Vayne? Volibear, who can get kited back by the Vayne. Rune Prison from Harry, but he's got to make sure that he gets that E off first so he can follow up with the root. It just feels like there's a lot of inconsistency with the side of Team Liquid with just dealing with Dokla.
Yeah, it feels bad, but I think you actually just have to kill all of Vayne's friends first, because it's so tough to actually lock down Dokla. That's the situation where Dokla tends to thrive, right? He's such a strong threat all on his own, but when you aren't able to hit him back, you're going to be in an even rougher position. So as long as Dokla is consistently moving with the rest of his team and creating that teamfight pressure, I think it's very difficult for CLG to lose a lot of these teamfights later on in the game. But he also creates split push pressure, and that's the thing that I love about CLG. Dokla can play multiple styles. He can play with the team. He can play on the split, and their adaptability is one of those valuable things that you can see in a game of League of Legends and a League of Legends player, because you can play multiple roles. You aren't locked into one style like some players lock you into.
On the other side, Bradley, he's been someone we kind of need to highlight because of that flex that he did at the beginning of the season, going from mid to top lane over the offseason to join Team Liquid here. And where I expected him to play more of these carries here, playing that beefy frontline tool, the guy who's going to stand in front of a lot of the team to try to help out and absorb a lot of that pressure, is also really invaluable to see that the change that he can provide. Plus,
got one.
I kind of look at how this top lane is, where Dokla might be able to get these advantages. The CS lead that he's now dominating Bradley over, it's still a Scion. He's eventually just going to be a beefy frontline that sits in front of his entire team, and that's all he needs to do.
But we've also seen Scions, when you don't get that money, you're miserable, right? Do you remember watching Concept on Scion a couple weeks ago where he was just,
that's true.
You know, it wasn't entirely his fault, but he was super far behind. And once you find that and you're not a beefy frontline, like, you have multiple 80 carries that can rip you apart.
That's true. That is very fair, and probably even why we're just seeing Bradley do his damnedest to farm up the best he can. He's getting pretty good CS, actually, against Dokla. He's not necessarily in the worst position, but he did have the TP initially back into lane with the cloth armor. Now he's already recalled again just to get a Warden's Mail, and probably will ult purely to get back into this lane, so he's not falling massively far behind Dokla. And that's those are all good steps for the side of Team Liquid, because then you transition to other parts of the map. You look towards Armeo and how he's hanging around this bot lane, knowing that they can't really do much against the Vayne, but they have to make sure Yon and Rhino are not falling behind, especially because we're seeing more of the lethality build. But here is Triple already in the bot lane, getting the damage and first blood for Rosethorn.
The bait's coming through. They get a double kill. They get both of them for CLG.
And Rhino I think Rhino's about to get dove here. Rhino is not in a good position. You can steal the soul of Volibear. You can take up the turret for quite some time. You got the stun, and you got the flashes in abound for CLG to get 3 kills in that bot lane.
Great play coming out for CLG. Triple on his way down during the play. Able to turn things on its head. I have to see where he was during that whole play. What were the pings? What were the comms coming through? Because we came in a little bit late as well. But Dokla, remember his early game annoyance. Now knowing that the enemy jungle is dead, Dokla is going to try and take this away from Armao, and he can kite this incredibly well, but there's 3 members coming.
Dude, I don't know if they know fully. He's got a lot of damage onto this.
Oh.
Can use the splash cone over the wall, but he uses it that way
Dokla.
instead. It's spotted out by the Sky Splitter, looking for that rune prison. Dokla's got a lot of damage. He cleanses away from the root. He's kiting back the best he can, but that's still a lot of damage. He had to flash away, getting towards Rhino, but it's going to be the slow from Decimating Smash and Bradley getting the kill.
All right, okay, Dokla. Okay, a little bit too far there. Ends up being punished with a huge collapse coming out from Team Liquid, and I think the biggest thing is Dokla probably never realized he was doing that blue buff on a ward, and once you do that, you put yourself in a really dangerous position when your position is known the entire time. They see you're not backing up, that you are committed to the play. It ends up leaving Dokla high and dry, and the lead that he was building up against Bradley is completely evaporated because of the fact that they are giving over this first kill, and now Dokla gonna have to try and find something else to do in order to bully out this lane. But Rosethorn also gonna get spotted out, and feels like CLG, for the most part, other than Dokla's mispositioning on the map, are still in firm control, because we still need to talk about the bottom lane play. Like, that was insane.
That's what I was gonna say. Even though Dokla gets spotted out there, it's a double threat composition. You've got Vayne and Jinx. Either one of these getting bolstered up is going to be massive for CLG. And you already have Prismal. Look at Prismal, Rosethorn, Triple. All of them. 1, 0, and 2 because of that play in the bot lane. That is a lot of gold you've given over to this Jinx over something like Forest that wants to be able to get a lot of poke and be something that can kind of help out the rest of the team, but Jinx just can scale up better.
All right, Rosethorn, you don't need to... There's no rule in League of Legends that says you need to watch the other team do the objective, right? You're not stealing that. There's no way you're going to be able to pick that up. You just go farm. It is okay. We saw that last game, Rosethorn was falling significantly behind Armao in terms of jungle camps, and this is a game where it looks like that is likely to be happening again as well. Armao still has entire bottom side to farm, and so does Triple, and that just means that the advantage we currently see is a real CS advantage, and it's about 2-3 camps. And Bradley, as you said, you know, he was struggling a little bit, but we also got to note that the early couple of levels for Vayne are good against a lot of these melees. But after that, it doesn't necessarily get better, because you build more attack speed and the trades and the harass becomes even stronger. Now Rosethorn actually going to be going in and taking away some of Armeo's camps. This is a desperately needed recuperation.
Well, look at how they are positioned right now. You've got recalls from both mid laners, Harry and Triple. Both went back to base, but the wave had crashed for Triple. Bot lane too. Gone, and Rhino are back underneath their turret. They're trying to stay as safe as they can, because an engage like that can happen, where Bradley, he doesn't even, Breezy doesn't even need to really do much except get the knockup so they can get the kill, and now they're threatening Rhino once more.
They expected a play to be coming soon, but they didn't expect it to be happening so soon. Breezy going to be punishing that overextension from Yon very, very well, and it just gets another position where Team Liquid, their bottom lane currently falling behind, and we saw them have a lot of trouble with this last time. So CLG turning things around pretty heavily, and even the lead that we were saying had disappeared largely on the top side of the map is beginning to build once again, and Team Liquid now making the same mistake. There's no reason to really be here unless you think you can catch them.
No, this is looking like the CLG we've seen throughout this season. They have a massive lead in the early game. It's only 11 minutes in, and they're up over 3,000 gold to Team Liquid. They are already accelerating this game, and Rosethorn, even if he was falling behind in some of these camps, he is making these plays. He is especially focused on this bot lane, letting Dokla do his own thing in the top lane. This is now an island. It is a complete kingdom that he does not care about at all.
They were doing a good job earlier of making sure that there was a lot of vision available to Dokla, so there was no real threat of ganks, but even with Volibear coming up, unless Volibear finds a flank or a way to get immediately on top of Dokla kites him, right? It's very, very difficult for these two champions to do anything to the Vayne. So you are very happy to be leaving Dokla on an island in this lane position. And CLG can spend all of their time, all their resources going bottom lane. And speaking of, Triple, while he gets attacked right now, has access to his ultimate again.
Has it, and that's why Harry wants to play aggressively, trying to crash these minion waves so Triple cannot play around the bot lane, especially because wave after wave after wave have been crashing into this bottom tier 1 turret from Prismal and Breezy, which means Breezy now can leave the lane.
Yeah.
The confidence he has in Prismal and where he now feels the strongest to play in other lanes is starting to come through. Harry, got to be careful. He dodged away from the Everfrost, barely getting away. There is a little bit of skirmishing from every side of the map. But for CLG, a lot of things are looking the way they want to, except for the fact that Armeo is now shown as the top lane. Rokla has to kite this as best he can, but he's a little too late to get that recovery from his team. Instead, they now have to turn without him. They have to look for Bradley, but there's Harry on the other side. Bradley is tanky with the Wish coming through, too, to keep him alive. It's a Heartbreaker away, but here comes the Thunder. That's going to be a lot of damage onto Rosethorn. Harry and the shutdown for Armeo are critical for Team Liquid.
I'm not sure how Dokla is taking a lot of damage before these all wins actually happened, but he just didn't have enough health to actually make the kite possible. And Armeo, now is dropping the red all topside, is going to be reversing a lot of the advantages that CLG had just built up. The shutdown going down onto Rosethorn, Dokla going down for a second time in this game, and so many plates getting picked up for Team Liquid means that they are still down about 2,000 gold, but one of the big things that CLG consistently do is they have about a 2,000 gold lead, and then they grow it. Oh, good science. Okay.
I mean, for CLG, they just aren't able to grow these leads enough because it is a good read from Team Liquid. They have these scaling options. They have these big front lines, but the biggest problem for them is the spot lane. That Prismal and Breezy are having such a great time beating up both Yawn and Rhino.
Yeah, and Rhino's been looking pretty decent so far on the Soraka, right? The only quote-unquote mistake was being underneath his turret while getting dove, and he didn't really have much of an option.
He didn't have a choice there.
Yeah, he was just like, well, I guess I'm just dead here. But Team Liquid, got to be careful. Triple going to be trying to run down Harry, but not going to be fast enough. So now we start turning our attention back towards the objectives, right? Because in a minute and a half, CLG need to make their decisions. Do they think they're strong enough to bully out this game? And do Team Liquid think they're strong enough to challenge them? Because once that happens, the game will break open. If this kite comp, if there's a super range comp coming out for CLG is able to get that lead and stay ahead, it's going to be very difficult for Team Liquid to find their way back in. But if Team Liquid are going to be the ones winning that fight, if they start getting the counterclock going with their own dragons and forcing the range comp to come into them, they can win.
That is true. And I'm kind of curious, with a lot of these items now being completed, the mythics for the side of CLG, how well they're going to be able to kind of kite back, as you said. Make sure that they're getting the lower range members of Team Liquid into their hands, because we're seeing that Bradley has already got that Frozen Heart. The items are also coming through for Yawn to be able to do a lot of damage himself. They're just waiting on Harry to finish that Everfrost.
Well, going to be coming out fairly soon, and one of the things I want to talk about very briefly is the fact that Twisted Fate on 12, I think it was 12-3, took a pretty massive nerf, right? It initially had a bug associated with it, which dropped his win rate down to 45%, but is now mostly recovered. Still sitting around like 48, 49%. But the major part is you need to build more AP to break even on the amount of damage that your Q is going to be doing. And that doesn't work. Okay. Oh.
Well, here he is, right onto Armeo, but he got stunned immediately. They killed Soraka. No Wish going to be utilized. Instead, the rocket, where is it going to land? With a lot of damage coming through, it's going to go wide, not connecting onto Bradley, but they already got the kill from Dokla on the other side. It's the double threat that they need. They can chase them down. They've got the Heartbreaker. It's a double kill for Dokla. He's back in the game.
It's a total rout. The fact that they were able to find that with so aggressively with no play coming back from Team Liquid is huge. Team Liquid just got ripped to shreds, and because the team fight is so chaotic, their front to back, their poke never comes to bear. Harry's not able to do any damage. Yon's on the outside of the fight, not able to interact with the Vayne, and it's going to be another team fight win going over CLG and another dragon. Now that they are so far ahead, it becomes incredibly difficult for Team Liquid to do anything.
We can see in this replay that it at first looked a little dicey because Triple goes right on top of a Volibear, but it's the re-engage from the rest of the team.
Yeah. And The target selection was impeccable from CLG. They know that they're never going to be killing anybody as long as Soraka is alive. You need to kill the Enchanter first because they are the real carries. Everybody else does the damage, yes, but Enchanters are the ones that allow them to do that. And once you take that down, it's very easy for Vayne to dance around these fights, pick up all these wins, pick up all the damage and the kills. And Dokla reversing a lot of the early game mistakes that he was having so far and showing that he is a resilient player.
And that also shows you the power that a player like Dokla brings to the team, where he makes these flashy plays. He attempts to go for the invade on his own, kind of falls behind, but it's how he bounces back from there, and now helps out the rest of the team with Harry getting caught in the river, but thankfully having a Soraka on the other side and hearing the coward's charge coming in from Bradley. The rest of CLG will disperse.
Gotta be backing up. Ooh, okay. I thought Bradley had gone over the wall for a second, and that would have been very bad for Bradley. But we go back to the rest of the game as Dokla takes down another turret.
Flip push, baby.
Yeah, I kind of want to look back at the people who need to suddenly have a good game for Team Liquid in order to bring it back. We'll get to that later.
Okay, that's going to be Wish used. Keep Yon alive, but he doesn't have very much mana to throw out those arrows. Just going to be a 2 ults. What is it? Yeah, 2 ults for the side of Team Liquid, only for the one on the side of CLG, even though Harry now getting caught out. Bradley keeps him alive, getting the knockup, but it's going to be a Realm Warp away, but no, interrupted by the gold card. Triple make sure he can't escape, and CLG continue to fight aggressively all across the map. Bradley's getting chased down by Triple and Rosethorn, even if it's taking them a damn long time to kill this beefy tank. Eventually, they will be able to slay the beast and give Rosethorn a kill. Once more, where is it? He can't flash it yet. Finally, they take him.
We're seeing how long it actually takes to bring down Sion at this point, and that's part of why I was going to say needs to be Bradley, needs to be Armeo, the front lines for Team Liquid, having a good game from here on out. They need to be the ones who are able to lock down targets and stand in front of Harry and Yon. Because Harry and Yon, their job is relatively easy once you lock down a target. You just throw all your spells, you hit the rotations, and you blow people up. But they don't have a whole lot of tools on their own in order to actually get these team fights started. It's really based on the front line of Team Liquid.
And the big problem is how far behind they are. Here, Harry is playing just way too aggressively. He feels like he has Bradley, but you're too far behind. You can't play that aggressively into CLG at the moment.
And I love the fact that CLG they see Bradley and they're like, yeah, we'll get to you later. You have to wait your turn. We're going to go kill the Rise first. Because again, they know that it's about killing the backline, and it's on Team Liquid frontline and backline to work together to make sure that there is no access for CLG to the back. When you play these split fights, it's so difficult for Team Liquid to actually choose their targets.
While CLG are playing the split fights perfectly. They're making sure they can utilize the double, triple threat if you want to really include Rosethorn into that conversation as well. So he can show up here for Harry, who's far away, no turret, the TP behind, but will he survive long enough for some help? He won't. He dies. Even with the coward's charge and the slam dunk coming in from Armeo, it takes forever to kill anybody on the other side because they just don't have the damage anymore. So now CLG can continue to kite back. It's going to be a Chain of Corruption going wide, piercing arrow. It does a little bit of damage to Principal. No slowdown from Sky Splitter. Team Liquid, they are still trying to fight this because there isn't a TP from Dokla, but they had already lost one member. With Breezy now getting locked down and taking a lot of the attention coming in from Team Liquid, he'll sacrifice himself so the rest of the team can now jump in on to Armeo, who isn't tanky at this moment. And Breezy, how the hell are you still alive for the team to re-engage and kill the Rocco with the gold card? Immediately, Captain Jack cleanse from Yon, but not enough to survive. Rosethorn takes him down with a smite, and Bradley finally falls.
Incredibly tragic coming through for Team Liquid fans, but see, Team Liquid's going to help them do the Baron. He just wants this game to be over, right?
I think he was attempting to get the aggro of Baron so it would do some damage to CLG, but like you said, it just helped start up the Baron for CLG, and we're like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, we're setting it up for Team Liquid, Armeo, who wants to get his way back to LCS, and I did learn articles on Team Liquid's website, not on Oracle's Elixir, so make sure you go check that out. But this is a situation where CLG are just able to kite things out once Bradley's ultimate is down, and once they don't have the initial damage to break things away. It's just a matter of CLG kiting through. And the great thing about this is Breezy is tanky enough because there's just not enough damage coming through from Soraka and Varus. But the issue is once Armeo walks blind into this choke point, it's incredibly easy for CLG to get back in. And Bradley, not in a position where he can create space for Rhino. And once the Soraka's down, we said it before, the Enchanters are the carries for the teams. You need to keep them alive. And once that is no longer true, the rest of the team crumbles.
Armeo, before that fight, when that fight took place, only had Divine Tsundere too. He's now got that Warden's Mails to have some tanky stats. That's why he just dies fast. Only one who could really survive any of the damage coming in from CLG was Bradley. But as you said, they don't have enough damage themselves as Team Liquid. They don't really have that ability to throw back any fight that comes in from CLG at this moment.
Yeah, that was 2 autos coming out from Prismal as well. You know, it takes a little bit longer for him to take down Harry, but not that much longer as they get so much damage coming through. They're going to be opening up the base. Dokla at the same time, relatively quiet since that last fight that he participated in. A 70 CS lead currently over Bradley, and as multiple turrets go down, multiple inhibitors are going to be opened up. CLG looking to close this game relatively cleanly.
He's just been in the side lanes, having a grand old time, flip pushing for the team. This is the quick game, that power in the early stages that CLG have had throughout this spring split we're seeing in Game 2, the turnaround. Making sure there is no slow-paced gameplay for Team Liquid. They have all the advantages, having now opened up 2 inhibitors. We're just at 23 minutes, Josh. That's how early this game is.
Yeah, and I actually love, I want to talk about something a little bit more general coming out from CLG. The fact that they are willing to go with this pocket pick coming out from Dokla is amazing, right? That's something that I think should be seen a little bit more often, where you just take a look and say, hey, you know what champion is sick here? I know it's not the most common thing in the meta. It's Vayne, right? Or it's Nasus, or it's Tom Kent, or whatever champion you have in your back pocket. Dokla brings it through, and even though it hasn't been the biggest part of this game, the fact that CLG are willing to trust their players with that means that they will have so much success going forward as long as they continue to play with conviction, as long as they look for these early game plays to get themselves ahead. CLG are going to be the team to beat.
And I also love that Dokla played aggressively early on, got punished, but then Breezy helped support him again, make sure that he can continue to go. And this gives them leads all across the board where they can fight in the jungle underneath the tier 2 turret of Team Liquid. But look at that damage. They were able to turn it around to get a shutdown onto Rosethorn. It was a little bit of an overextension coming in from the side of CLG, but at the same time, they have the base being opened by Dokla. Here's the Realm Warp with all 5 members onto Dokla. There is no support for your team, but you can kite back pretty damn well. Make sure that nobody's going to be able to fight you to up the Rhino to keep him going. But with everyone now diverted towards Dokla, CLG continue to look to open up the base.
Oh, triple Destiny Gate down to the other side of the map. They have super minions. This is going to be the end.
They've got a lot of damage. The only person they lost before was Rosethorn. It's a triple threat comp. You still have to deal with Dokla and Prismal. There's no frontline anymore for the side of Team Liquid, with the minions now starting to pour into the base. This is looking over for Team Liquid. It is CLG showing their power in the early game, making sure that there's no scaling this time around for Team Liquid, because they're ending the game well faster than they even saw in the previous game. It is only 25 minutes in. We're about to have a 1-1 series again with one final fight at the steps of the fountain for Team Liquid. But it's all about padding the KDAs. It's all about making sure you look as good as possible, with the double kill coming in from Dokla, diving nearly, taking down Rhino right at the bitter end.
Look, Magical, I hope you get your other ties ready, because if we're starting off the day with a 1-1 between Team Liquid and CLG, I'm expecting to see a lot of close series today, right? We got to see both sides of the coin. And on 12-4, it definitely feels like neither of these teams have necessarily figured out the end of how this drafting is supposed to be going. But once you're able to do that, once you're able to lock things down, it will become a lot more apparent who has the better read. Because these drafts were kind of crazy today, Magical. They were not at all what we were seeing on the previous patch, and both teams kind of throwing things out the wall and seeing what sticks. Zeri, Anyan, can't let that happen again. But the Dokla Vayne coming through, the Twisted Fate coming back into the meta after completely disappearing on 12-3 is very exciting.
Also, looking at Team Liquid, having that first pick Ryze, where Ryze has been slowly going back into that position where he's been this dominant champion, like in previous seasons. Here, seeing it first pick, I don't know how I felt about that. Even though Harry tried his best, he was just there. The LeBlanc was one of those picks. That's why I talked about that before, with how great he looked on that. You could see that in the first game. It was a change of pace for Team Liquid, still trying in an essence to hold on to that late game scaling composition, but falling because CLG drafted towards their strength and their early game.
And that's what we have to see coming out from CLG. They have such strong early games if they actually play to it, and they just need to make sure that they are able to find some of these advantages. Team Liquid did a good job stifling them in Game 1, which is where they got their first win, but Game 2 ended up getting turned around, and we got to see, again, so much early play, and I want to talk a little bit more about Triple, because I don't feel like we spent a lot of time talking about him during the game, but his ability to move around the map and serve an exceedingly strong facilitator role made the rest of his team look so good throughout this game, because he was always there with the gold cards, always there ready to kite out the enemy team, and his ability to impact the map kind of shows why Twisted Fate was so feared in patches past.
And we're even seeing like why people are banning Ari towards him. The setup, where he even builds to set up his team with charms. It's more about that. And I actually agree with you. I'm glad that you talked about Triple because he looked really good in this game on that Twisted Fate. But for now, we're going to toss to a break. When we come back, Mazel will be here for an interview. Make sure you stay tuned.
Bye, Alex.
Hello, hello. Hi, can you hear me? That's good. Okay, so like, the ID for it? Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Did you guys end up fixing the delay? What was the problem with that? I'm glad it's fixed. So am I on like right when they come out? Oh wait, does the timer change when it's at 60 seconds? It has like this sideways visual. I noticed that. That's cool. Oh, it's
Welcome back, everyone. I am here with Prismal from CLG Academy after their comeback victory to tie up that series 1-1. Prismal, welcome and top of the standings for CLG. Just give me a little breakdown. How's it feel, man?
Thank you, Mizell. It feels good. I'm happy that our team's getting better, win or lose. You know, it doesn't really feel like we're unbeatable or anything being first, but it's just we're all just improving every day, and that feels really good.
Now, was it a little bit of complacency gaming last week? What happened? What was the difference between last week and all the other weeks for CLG dominance?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. Like, what made us play worse than usual? I think we all kind of sat together, had like a team bonding moment. Like, what's going wrong? What can we do better? We went out,
Yeah.
we held hands around a campfire. You know, like got everyone's
Oh,
brains together. And
man.
I think this week was definitely a better showing. I mean, we all put in a lot of work, a lot of effort to be better. And I mean, I think it definitely showed this week. We came back and did way better than we did last week, and we're all pretty happy with how we played today. I mean, there are things we can fix, but we're excited to play again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. The fact that you guys got to problem solve with it in the way that you can, and especially the team bonding is always so nice. I gotta ask you though, personally, what are your thoughts on the ADC meta right now? Do you feel like Power's transitioning away from the role? Do you feel strong as ever? What is your take right now on the ADC role?
I mean, I feel pretty strong when I make it to 3 items and I've got some CS going for me. I'm 10 CS a minute. I can just right click people. Like last game when I was playing Jinx, I could just
Those
run forward,
rockets
hit
hurt.
people with
I'm just
rockets.
saying.
It was fun. It was really fun. But sometimes the game ends before that point, and that's when it's not that fun. So I think it's just team gap. It's always team gap when you play to carry.
There's label it as team gap, so that's what I can use as my excuse now in my AD games. I'll just be like, team gap, it's fine. Prismal told me it's fine. Do you feel
That's true.
do you have any personal feelings about Zeri at all in the meta? Do you feel like we're gonna see a little bit more of her presence, I guess?
I think it's kind of hard to say right now. I mean, some teams
Mhm.
are playing it, some teams aren't. I think each team has a different read on whether or not it's good. Without like leaking anything, I mean, I personally enjoy the champ. I think it's pretty fun to play, and it's just nice when you have really fast move speed and you're just hopping over walls. Like I think that's really
The
cool to watch
zoomies.
and to play. It's probably not that fun to play against, like when you're on the other team, but I think it's kind of like up for debate right now whether or not it's good.
So then, I guess transitioning more to CLG itself and the academy team, what do you feel like the biggest strength right now is for the squad?
I would say that all of us are experienced enough to know what we need to do to win the game. And so if our lead is top, then we trust that Doka will carry us. And if our lead is on bot lane, then our team trusts that bot lane will carry that game. And everyone is really good at knowing what their role is in the game. And that's something that we've drilled a lot of times in practice. So I'm actually really proud of like everyone because no one really feels like they need to be the carry. Like everyone kind of trusts that if we all do our job, then we'll win. And that's like, it's a really good feeling to have that on the team. And I think that's why we're winning so many games.
I get all the wholesomeness, but when he locks in the Vayne top lane, do you get a little jealous? Are you like,
Dude,
man,
I was the one
I
that
want to
told him
play Vayne?
to lock in the vein. Like all of us were like,
Okay,
"Yo, it's a
okay.
vein angle for sure."
It's
He was ready.
Vayne. Oh, I love it, man. I love it. All right. One last couple little last personal questions for myself. What's your Rubik's Cube time? Do you have it knocked down? Do you have it timed out?
I don't have a Rubik's cube with me, or I would solve it. But I think my last time was like 36 seconds or something. I mean, I'm not that
Oh
like
my
I'm good. I'm
god.
like plat. I would say I'm a plat
You're
Rubik's cube
like
solver.
Plat,
I could be
the
better.
Rubik's
Yeah.
Cube timer. All right, we'll make sure to keep tracking that. We need a leaderboard for it. Make sure you're doing good. Prismal, last question for me. What is your personal favorite animal? I'm putting together a tier list, and at the end of the year, maybe you'll be the one I rank at the top. What's your animal?
I would say dogs are S tier, but the best animal that exists is probably an otter, because otters are pretty much like water dogs if you
Okay,
think about it,
okay.
and they're really cute.
True. And they're very, very cute. All right, all right. We'll see how you rank. That was a pretty good one. I like it. Last little
Thank you.
bit.
Thank you.
Do you have any shout outs? Do you have anybody you want to talk about? Any call outs here before we let you go?
Thank you to my teammates for doing well. I hope we keep doing well, and I want us to do better tomorrow. That's all.
Perfect PR statement from Prismal. I love it, man. Thank you so much for joining me. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you. You too.